Paryavaran is a Sanskrit word for environment that was prevalent in ancient India, thousands of years before the advent of modern science. Indian civilization has always been an eco friendly civilization from its ancient days. In Indian consideration, environment is not a physical and lifeless being, but a very living and active mechanism, and human beings are just one among the various other creatures that inhabit the earth. For ancient Indians, the universe was integrated, whole, and all natural phenomena had a divine origin. There was an all round intense awareness for the need for having the right balance in man environment interaction. They had great respect for nature and related all things happening in the environment to divinity. They were aware of the fragility of living in the environment if it was not protected. They laid emphasis on adapting to the environment and not changing it. Many principles and guidelines were formulated for an easy interaction between human beings and environment. Ancient Indians learnt to be in symphony with the environmental surroundings right from their formative years. The learning system was in natural surroundings called as the Gurukul, which was the dwelling place of teachers or gurus. Guru is a combination of two words, gu, which means darkness, and ru, which implies to dispel. Thus, the Vedic Guru was a dispeller of darkness of both the words. That which is inside of man and that which is outside. The student who was accepted in the Gurukul had to stay there through the entire period of his study. In the earlier days, education was given by scholars and learned people known as gurus and acharyas. They acted as custodian, as counselors, as confidants, advisors, mentors, father figures for all the students. These gurukuls served as centers of learning that helped the students in building their character, in creation of societal awareness, in developing a discerning mind to choose the correct values in life, in learning the Vedas. All these were done with living a life integrated with nature and surroundings. As they all lived in the natural environment, conservation and preservation of natural surroundings became a part of their living. The Gurukuls were located in forests, and the students experienced environment in its purest yet diversified forms. For ancient Indians, the notion of environment is that it is transcendental in nature. Indian philosophical texts proclaim that all of creation does occupy the same gamut of existence, and they are different in comparison to their level of consciousness. This concept of oneness is what is seen in the ancient textual referrals. They worship nature for its sun, water, air, soil, earth, trees, plants, animals. They held these divine and showed their respect through their works of art that highlighted the natural beauties. These moral values that displayed genuine love for nature instilled the ancients to exploit nature for only those resources that is needed for living and not otherwise. This notion was given so much of importance so that doing otherwise was akin to having committed a grave and undeplorable sin. Ancient Indian awareness, the environmental awareness, can be said to have existed even in the pre-Vedic man of the Indus Valley civilization, which flourished in northern India about 5,000 years ago. This is evident from the archaeological evidence gathered from Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, which were the chief cities of that civilization. They had acute awareness about hygiene and sanitation, as evident from their construction of ventilated houses, orderly streets, numerous wells, bathrooms, public baths, and covered underground drains. Several tablets found at the site show their love for trees as a form of worshipping the goddesses. The continuation of environmental awareness can be seen in the Aryan civilization, where their ecological awareness can be seen in their notion of Arnyani, meaning queen of forests, as envisaged by the Vedic series. This can be linked to the idea of tree goddesses in the Indus Valley civilization. There are several descriptions in the Vedas regarding praise to Aranyani, the spirit of the forest which guides and protects the plants and wild animals. The Aryans observed nature in all its true aspects. They realized that the human and other living creatures on earth had limited lifespan when compared to that of the sun, moon, and stars. Man and metals have an age old relationship. Different periods of early human civilization have been named after metals. The attributes of gold influenced the mind and heart of Indians so much so that they conferred upon the Supreme Spirit the designation of Hiranyagarbha. It was so called because he remains in a golden egg as an embryo. The two important sources for the history of Indian metallurgy are archaeological excavations and literary evidence. Although a considerable amount of information on this subject from the study of archaeological finds is available, literary evidence has not been studied in the extent it deserves. Unique information related to metals and metallurgy is available in different Sanskrit texts, beginning with Vedic texts to medieval and pre-modern texts. They are both direct and indirect types of references. An attempt has been made in this particular module to give you a glimpse of the same. The Rig Veda has widely referred to Hiranya, which is the oldest Sanskrit word for gold. It has also mentioned products made from gold, such as water vessel, necklace, and a visor. Chariots decorated with gold have also been mentioned. The Rig Veda mentioned that the river Sindhu, that is Indus, contains gold. The word Hiranyai was used for the river. Another Rig Veda hymn states that the path of the river Sindhu contains gold, and the word used for it is Hiranyavrati. It is interesting to note that Sayana translated this word as a very big word, that is Kumbayakula, both banks containing gold. The above hymns are some of the earliest indirect references to the alluvial placer gold deposits in India. The river Sindhu was an important source of gold in ancient times. It is interesting to note the references for the availability of alluvial placer gold in the river Sindhu are also reported in modern times. Tusi reported in 1977 that there was near the Indus, the source, as there are even now great mines of gold in the region of Mansarovar. Gold obtained from the river Jambu was called Jambunanda, and that from the river Ganga was called Gangaya. These were also alluvial placer gold. The Pali text Anguttara Nikaya narrated the process of the recovery of gold, dust or particles from alluvial placer gold deposits in allegorical form. The Mahabharata referred to Pipalika, that is gold. Heaps of this type of gold was presented to the king Yudhishthira at the time of Rajasya Yagna ceremony. Pipalika gold was powdery in nature, of high purity. It was obtained by panning the auriferous soil of ant hills formed by ants or termites as part of their nature on the land containing placer gold deposits called Rasavidha, which was naturally occurring dissolved gold in liquid form. Native gold is invariably by no means a pure metal. It contains at least 20% silver, copper, iron, lead, bismuth, platinum group, metals, and other metals. Thus, native gold would have different colors depending upon the nature and the amount of purities and impurities that it had. It is important to note that Kautilya stated that the starting sheet of impure gold must be thin. Another important metal referred in the Rig Veda is the ayas. It has a shining appearance. Ayasha's different meaning in different period. In early Vedic period, it means either copper or copper alloys. One of the important products made from ayas, as stated in Rig Veda, was the weapon of Indra called the Vajra. It was made by the process of sinchan or the casting. In the later Vedic period, ayas or the Kashnayas, that means iron, in the Atharva Veda, the Rajata, Trapu and Sisa have been mentioned. So Rajata is silver, Trapu is tin and Sisa is lead. Kautilya also described the method for refining silver, which was similar to that of gold. There is a rich Sanskrit terminology for metals, from which interesting information on history of metallurgy can be derived. Only a few uncommon terms would be cited. Silver has a tendency to tarnish. It tarnishes readily when exposed to atmosphere containing sulfur and looks blackish. Then there are ferrous materials. The ferrous materials that were iron ore pieces, they're reduced by charcoal in the solid state. And there were many products which were formed out of iron. We still continue to use iron as the oldest metal available. Any useful products can be obtained from this material after removing the residual impurities. So an exciting example of wrought iron produced in ancient India is the world-famous Delhi Iron Pillar. It was erected in the present position in Delhi in the 5th century AD by King Chandra Varman. However, the engraved Sanskrit inscription suggests that it was brought probably here from elsewhere in the Gupta period. Another striking feature of the pillar is its manufacturing technology. It was made by successive hot forging of directly reduced sponge iron blocks produced from the solid state reduction of iron ore by charcoal in a die. So you can see there were rigorous processes involved into acquiring these metals and then processing these metals also. Indian crucible steel was a celebrated material worldwide. It was usually produced by some simultaneous carburization and melting of wrought iron. Historically, brass, an alloy of copper and zinc, was known to man much earlier than they were able to extract zinc from its ore on a large scale. In early period, zinc was designated as sattva or zinc ore. In medieval period, it was indicated or designated as yashada. So all these metals have had different names but the same composition in different periods. There were so many Indian traditions which include the use of various metals in different forms. Metal technology and all other technologies are human creation, but shaped historically by context. We understand that most of the metal technologies in the past are maybe not used in the present time. However, they still have their base in what the ancient Indians found and discovered. Indian agriculture has long, old, and beyond memory history which begins the Indus Valley civilization. One of the most old water regulating structure in the world is Grand Anicut Dam on river Kaveri. Indian agriculture began by 9000 BCE as a result of early cultivation of plants and domestication of crops and animals. Settled life soon followed, with implements and techniques being developed for agriculture. Double monsoons led to two harvests being reaped in 1 year. Indian programs and products soon reached the world via existing trading networks and foreign crops that were introduced to India. Plants and animals, considered essential to the survival by the Indians, came to be worshipped and venerated. The Middle Ages saw irrigation channels reach a new level of sophistication in India, and Indian crops affecting the economies of other regions of the world under Islamic patronage. Land and water management systems were developed with an aim of providing uniform growth. Despite some stagnation during the later modern era, the independent Republic of India was able to develop a comprehensive agricultural program.